Welcome to One Word a Day in Sophia Pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue unpacking now a new era I'm introducing. We have been talked uh, since the beginning of the year, Paleolithic, Neolithic, Equestrian, Classical China era, and now we're coming to closer to contemporary. But before contemporary, there is this confrontational age, which is the ocean slash industrial age. Why is slashing it? Is because the official definition of ocean versus industrial age is 1500 to 1800, roughly, is the ocean age, which is the global exploration and trade route establishment. So it's the early stage of globalization versus industrial simply is the technological improvement ever since steam engine. That's when humans discover how we can replace our muscle power with machine muscle power, right? And that's since 1800 to 2000. So by the time classical China, which were like dynasties and after dynasties, roughly like 2,000-3,000 years before they ended officially in 1911, which is the fall of the last Qing dynasty. I mean, if you're interested, you can check out the Last Emperor movie to describe the very last emperor. So before that happened, there is roughly 100 years of interaction between this classical China era, still old system of ruling this big piece of land, confronting the Western civilization. And by the time the Western civilization knock on the doors of Chinese waterways, it's already industrial age for the West, but China was still in agrarian society. So that's kind of ocean and industrial age concurring for China. And you can kind of appreciate the shock of Chinese civilization collectively. Back then, it's like two stages behind the Western already after Renaissance, after the Reason Age, and then after the mastering of machine, mechanical engineering, I guess, is probably before the electrical engineering, but that's going to follow. Still, the steam engine is enough to fascinate this ancient civilization. So I would combine these two ages together. Many concepts we're going to cover in this ocean slash industrial age era were first translated by Japanese scholars because Japan embraced the Western civilization in a very different way from Chinese scholars. I mean, Chinese civilization collectively, because Japan is an island versus China is like deeply embedded on this big piece of land. It's very diverse and it's very slow, I guess. So Japanese scholars slash their emperor back then, the Meiji era, positioned themselves quickly to learn from the most advanced. And they were the first ones who translate this Western concept into this Eastern language, into Japanese kanji. Lots of them, these kanjis, were sharing the same root as the Chinese. And so for later days, when Chinese scholars were talking about the Western concept, they can easily, conveniently borrow that from Japanese publications. So a lot of times, knowledge transferred through the West, the English world or French, to Japan, and then Chinese scholars learn from Japanese scholars, then borrow these concepts conveniently form the foundation of many modern concepts in Chinese language. All right, so today we're going to cover the first and critical, kind of a defining tune of this era, which is ocean. How Chinese conceptualize what is ocean. And I'm very excited to discover, like I never thought the Chinese would would conceptualize ocean from the source of ocean, actually. It's surprising to me. So Yang is the character. And you can see it's very simple. The left side is water sign, which we have three versions, simplified, traditional, and 2,000 years ago's dictionary. This seal script language by Xu Chen dictionary compiler back then, after the first effort of language standardization of Chinese, we have this water sign plus the sheep or lamb symbol together means ocean. And okay, water, we get it, right? Categorically, ocean is made of water. That makes sense. But what about the lamb? Why lamb? And lamb plus water means ocean. Okay, so here are my theory, because I have been doing this for over some time, so I kind of get a grasp of different symbols, how culturally we assign meaning to them. So lamb, we have seen this character in the concept such as kindness, such as beauty, such as beauty, okay, or moral even, such big abstract concepts that's almost like the core of the value judgment of this culture. So Yang is the same pronunciation. The lamb, it all came from ancient times. So, back then, people probably regard lamb meat as the best kind of meat. And therefore, lamb was used in animal sacrifice meat. And that is consistent with the Western, like Christianity, right? The lamb, the Christian symbolism in there. Also because lamb is regarded as pure, something like that. So that's because lamb meat probably compared with pork or beef was more less likely to get infected by microbiomes or something like that, less likely to be spoiled. Therefore, it remained good. It taste is a personal thing, but at least it tend not to be spoiled as easily. Therefore, lamb was regarded in ancient times as the premium kind of meat. So Chinese use lamb to create concepts such as beauty, which is big plus lamb, or kindness, which is lamb plus two-person talking, their verbal kindness toward each other, or moral. We have the lamb plus the concept of me, like moral is this expectation of personal behavior and to kind of aim ourselves to be as good, as pure, as less spoiled as lamb. And the lamb as the animal sacrifice default meat is kind of our channel, the best kind of meat from humans, and therefore to represent the best quality among us. Okay, so why lamb plus water means ocean? Because originally this concept means the water sourced from Kunlun mountain range. And Kunlun, if you map Chinese map, okay, it's between Tibet and Xinjiang. So the most two big giant provinces on the left side of China, which kind of interface with what they call the Middle Asia. That's kind of India, and we know Himalaya is from there. So because of the high elevation, the water from there considered pure. And lamb plus water means the purest kind, the best kind of water with least pollution. And Chinese actually regard Kunlun, this far away toward China's central civilization, which is closer to the coastline on the east side. This west side is mysterious. is higher elevation. Very few people been there, right? So it's almost like comparable to Olympia, the Olympus, okay, the mountain of Olympus to Greek mythology is the mountain where the divinity resides. It's where I guess the best kind of imagined personified forces reside in there. And so it got this mystery. It got into our mythology. So this best kind of water eventually flow to the ocean, and we connect the source of water, which is the best kind that from Kunlun, the highest elevation region of water, to the very end of destination of the water, which is connecting to the global waterway, the oceans out there. So Chinese eventually use this best kind of water to mean the ocean. Okay, when we understand that for China back then, when the West kicked the door open, okay, that's the narrative according to later communism history rendering, right? To try to create this East versus West confrontation imagery, that the door was kicked open by the Western vessels and machines, I guess cannons back then, before the machine gun or other more advanced modern day weaponry. But that was enough to overwhelm back then the regime, the last dynasty. So according to this narrative, this ocean not only means the waterway that connects the whole globe, it also means the West, because Westerners first surfaced themselves in, I guess, significant or meaningful enough of numbers from the ocean. They show up on the ocean. Occasionally, there were individuals travel through the land. And because they're small quantity, they probably were viewed more like exotic, non-threatening, I guess, the messengers from the West. We don't really, as a civilization back then, regard them as a force that could be regime changing, right? Versus those came on a boat with cannons, weaponized, trying to do trade here, trying to just force you into the global system. Those are more threatening. And so this ocean concept is then associated to the Western, to the foreigner. Okay, so we have Yang, Western wax, which is a Chinese way to say candle. And I guess candle was introduced by the foreigners, and therefore it was associated as Western wax. Yang Ren, Western man, is Chinese, at least back then, to say foreigner. In today, we often say 老外, old foreigner or old outsider, as foreigner. But back then, we would associate foreigner with ocean. So the man that came from the ocean, that's Yang Ren, that's Western man, that's foreigner. Okay, and we have Yang Qi. That's an interesting thing, because it's a big piece of land, right? Regional difference vary a lot. And for people who hold on to their old ways, the old attires, they were regarded as 土气, kind of down talk to them, that they are like more provincial, I guess, like less advanced, less global, less connected, less trendy, less stylish. They wear, behave, talk in the old way, versus Yangqi, connected with that ocean from the global scene. So if you keep up with the global scene, for example, Shanghai in the 1920s, 30s, jazz age, when jazzes happen in the West, very quickly, people in Shanghai, the artists, the musicians, the dancers, singers, movie stars back then, catch up very quickly. And they would be the person, styles, people were regarded as Yangqi. They adopt this ocean air. If we translate it directly, it would be ocean air. And that to Chinese context would be this global air, equivalent to cosmopolitan. So now you see how culturally Chinese associate yang, this ocean, with the West or the global. So here we go, a peaceful ocean view. And now we're all fully connected and we experience new age. But it's good to review what happened in this quite dramatic age when the East meet the West finally.